About 87% of men never truly understand why they were rejected. They believe it was a matter of bad luck, bad timing, or simply that it wasn't meant to be. But great thinkers like Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, and Jung had already identified certain unconscious patterns that many women follow when making this kind of decision. These are subtle but powerful patterns. For example, have you ever noticed how she takes dozens of photos before choosing just one to post on social media? That's not just vanity. It reflects something deeper. In 1818, Schopenhauer observed a pattern that completely changed his perception of female behavior. He realized that many women live in search of external approval, as if they can only see themselves through the eyes of others. He called this the dependence on the gaze of others. That's why she spends hours getting ready before going out. It's not for herself, it's to be validated by others. That's why she changes outfits multiple times, constantly questions whether she looks good, and asks, "How do I look?" countless times throughout the day. She needs to be seen, noticed, accepted. And here's the point. This isn't just insecurity. It's ancestral programming. In ancient times, being accepted by the group was a matter of survival. A woman who wasn't approved by the tribe was excluded, and often that meant death. This pattern survived, and today manifests in the search for likes, compliments, and attention. The problem is that this can turn into emotional dependency. She starts to be unable to make decisions without asking her friends, doesn't feel beautiful without a compliment, or valuable without attention. And here comes the insight Schopenhauer didn't say, but that you need to understand. This weakness can become your strength, as long as you know how to handle it with maturity. When you understand that she lives in search of validation, you stop offering it automatically and freely. Stop complimenting her all the time, liking every photo, replying to every message immediately. By doing so, you become scarce, and scarcity creates value. When your approval becomes something rarer, she starts to work harder to earn it. She starts to value each compliment more. Try this. The next time she posts a photo, don't like it immediately. When she asks how she looks, respond with neutrality. When she tells a story expecting excitement, listen attentively, but without exaggeration. Watch the shift. She will notice. She will question herself. She will try harder. The logic is simple. Whoever controls the validation controls the dynamic. But that's just one of the hidden vulnerabilities. There's something even deeper, something Nietzsche noticed. The reason behind conflicts that seem to come out of nowhere. You've been through it. Everything was great. You laughed, had fun. It felt perfect. Then suddenly her mood shifts. She turns away, starts an argument over something trivial. You find yourself lost, trying to figure out what you did wrong, apologizing for something you don't even understand. Nietzsche understood what almost no one realizes in Beyond Good and Evil. Nietzsche wrote something that very few men truly understand. Women often create storms just to feel alive. This is the second emotional vulnerability he identified, an addiction to intensity. For many women, peace can feel like boredom. Too much. Harmony feels like stagnation. They need emotional highs and lows to feel connected to their own existence. When life is too calm, she creates chaos, not out of malice, but from emotional necessity. Nietzsche noticed this in his relationship with Lou Salome, the woman who fascinated him and for whom he fell deeply in love. Whenever things between them became stable and peaceful, Lou would stir up arguments, provoke his emotions, create some kind of imbalance. Not because she wanted to hurt him, but because she needed to feel something intense. The truth is that many women live on a kind of emotional roller coaster. Their brains are wired to feel deeply, and when life feels too flat, they unconsciously create artificial intensity. That's why she provokes you over a dirty dish in the sink. That's why she gets upset when you don't notice her new haircut. It's not about the dishes. It's not about the hair. It's about awakening emotion, feeling alive, keeping the fire burning. The mistake most men make is trying to solve everything logically. They defend themselves, explain, rationalize. But the problem was never logical, it was always emotional. Nietzsche then offers a brilliant insight. Instead of avoiding the drama, step into it, but consciously. Don't run from the storm. Dance with it. When she creates a small conflict, don't coldly defend yourself. Surprise her. Intensify it. Be even more dramatic than she is, but in a light, almost theatrical way. Use the unexpected. Be unpredictable. Create an emotional experience. She wants emotion. Then give her emotion, but from a place of emotional mastery, not reactivity. Want. An example. She says you don't give her enough attention. The typical reaction would be to apologize and promise to be more present, but try something different. Calmly say, "You're right. I think I'll give you even less attention. Lately, you haven't really earned it." That response creates exactly the emotional peak she was unconsciously seeking, but now you are in control, not her. What few people understand is that many women test men through drama. They want to see if you'll lose your balance, beg for peace, or humiliate yourself just to please them. If you do that, you fail the test. But when you're the one who commands the emotional intensity of the relationship, when you set the rhythm, you pass. As Nietzsche once said, "He who holds the hammer shapes the iron." In other words, stop being shaped by her reactions. Be the hammer. But drama is just the surface. There is a deeper vulnerability, so deeply rooted that many women don't even realize they have it. This insight came from the Danish philosopher Kierkegaard. He understood what lies behind the famous feminine contradiction. Why does she choose the safe, boring guy instead of the one who makes her heart race? You have passion, ideas, dreams. You make her laugh, you stir real feelings in her. But in the end, she chooses the accountant with a financed apartment and a car in his name. Why? Kierkegaard lived this himself. He was deeply in love with Regina Olsen. Their connection was profound, but she left him to be with a more predictable, safer man. That's when Kierkegaard discovered the third emotional vulnerability, the feminine fear of possibility. He called it the anxiety of possibility. The unknown provokes fear, and that fear comes from an ancestral instinct. In evolutionary terms, choosing unpredictable partners posed risks to the survival of one's children. Choosing stable men meant safety, protection, resources. That instinct still lives within them. That's why she has fun with you but chooses someone else to marry. Why she turns to you when she craves excitement, but goes back to her ex when she needs structure. She says she wants adventure, but chooses routine, and the mistake many men make, trying to compete in the arena of safety. They show their bank, balance, career plans, promise stability, fatal mistake. Kierkegaard understood something essential. Instead of trying to offer safety, offer what safety can never provide: passion, intensity, life. The choice she needs to make isn't between you and another man. The real choice is between feeling alive with you or feeling empty without you. Women live in a constant dilemma between two contradictory desires: security and excitement. The predictable man offers stability, but dims her spark. The bold man offers emotion, but threatens her sense of control. The key: combine both extremes. Be intense but grounded, unpredictable but reliable. Be the adventure she wants to live, not the chaos she needs to escape from. You don't need to be destructive to be interesting. You can be someone passionate about your purpose, who lives with intensity, whether by creating, traveling, or innovating. It's not about having a lot or a little money. It's about vital energy, vision, movement. The secret is to never become completely predictable. Always keep that element of surprise. Make her wonder with curiosity and excitement. What will he do next? Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." So be the kind of man who makes her look forward with desire and anticipation, not backward with regret or nostalgia. But there's a weakness even more subtle and dangerous. Have you ever noticed how many women shower each other with exaggerated compliments only to criticize each other behind their backs? "That dress looks amazing on you," they smile and say. But as soon as the friend walks away, "Too bad she still thinks that dress suits her." Why does this happen? Machiavelli observed this behavior in the Renaissance courts. Women rarely attack directly. They act through ambiguous praise, disguised Criticism and emotional strategy. This is the fourth feminine vulnerability, covert competition. While men tend to compete openly, if they dislike someone, they show it. Women compete in subtle, indirect, veiled ways. She smiles at her rival, compliments her, plays nice. But behind the scenes, she moves the pieces. It's a psychological game. And the more you understand this, the clearer it becomes. The key is not to react like a pawn on the board, but to observe like a king, with calm, clarity, and strategy. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "Women master the art of dissimulation. Like few others, they've learned to be dangerous, without looking dangerous. She won't say outright that she doesn't want something. Instead, she'll create a situation where you give up. She won't admit to jealousy. She'll provoke guilt. She won't compete directly for your attention. She'll subtly undermine anyone who threatens her position." Machiavelli saw this dynamic in Lucrezia Borgia. With a smile on her face, she offered poisoned favors. She greeted her rivals warmly, and soon those women lost influence, power, and men. The same mechanism still operates today, only the setting has changed. The rival compliments your haircut, knowing it looks bad. She introduces her beautiful friend to the man she wants, but plants quiet doubts about her character. She gives kind-sounding compliments, laced with hidden intentions. Female competition isn't less intense than male competition. It's just more strategic, invisible, silent, dangerous. They know a direct attack invites backlash, so the game is played indirectly and with sophistication. How does this affect you? More directly than you might think. If a woman is interested in you, she will, consciously or not, try to sabotage other women around you. Not with confrontation, but with subtle comments. She might compliment your ex, but then say, "She seemed a bit unstable, don't you think?" She might speak kindly about the co-worker who flirted with you, but add, "Women like that are usually very opportunistic." Machiavelli was clear. Knowing the weapons of your enemy is half the victory. Understand the game and protect yourself. Never take what she says about other women at face value. There may be a hidden agenda behind it. Pay more attention to behavior than words. What she does reveals far more than what she says. Use competition to your advantage. When she notices that other women want you, her desire increases. Female attraction responds to perceived value, and social proof carries a lot of weight. That's why men in relationships often seem more attractive. That's why she only wakes up after you start seeing someone else. Machiavelli also taught, appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. In the game of seduction, show disinterest when she's emotionally invested. Show interest when she starts to pull away. It's about emotional balance and mastering your own value. But let's go deeper. There's a more deeply rooted fragility that gives rise to many others. Have you ever noticed how, right after sex, she starts talking about weekend plans? And 5 minutes later comes the classic question, so what are we exactly? Carl Jung studied this behavior closely. He found that many women confuse physical intimacy with emotional bonding. They mistake pleasure for affection, sex for love. This is a pattern Jung called the projection of the anima. When a woman gives herself physically, she unconsciously projects onto the man the role of emotional provider. It wasn't just a pleasurable moment. To her, it was the beginning of something bigger. And if you don't reply to her message right away, she interprets it as emotional rejection. That's why a casual night together can, in her mind, become the start of a relationship. That's why she changes her tone of voice, her body language, her expectations, even if you never promised her anything. This is the seventh emotional vulnerability of women, the confusion between love and need. During sex, the female brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. From an evolutionary standpoint, this made sense. The attachment helped ensure she stayed close to the man who could protect and provide for future offspring. But even when she doesn't want children, her body still responds as if she did. The result? She starts to feel something she didn't feel before, begins to form expectations you never talked about, and starts imagining a future that only exists in her mind. Most men, when they sense this shift, react in one of two ways. and both are wrong. They run, scared by the emotional intensity, or they submit, taking on responsibilities they never wanted. But Carl Jung proposed a different path. Set clear emotional boundaries from the start. This doesn't mean being cold or cruel. It means being honest and transparent. Before any physical involvement, clearly communicate your intentions and what you expect from the relationship. During the connection, stay aligned with what you said. And afterward, most importantly, don't suddenly change your behavior. If you were lighthearted, stay lighthearted. If you were attentive, stay attentive. Sudden changes only amplify insecurity and emotional neediness. The fatal mistake is treating her differently after sex. That breaks emotional balance and creates confusion. Jung observed something counterintuitive. Women respect men who maintain healthy emotional boundaries more than those who cave under emotional pressure. When you fold to her emotional needs, it may seem like a gesture of affection, but what often happens is the opposite. She loses respect, but when you hold your ground with empathy, she might feel frustrated at first. But admiration grows. Why? Because it shows inner strength and emotional clarity. Emotional neediness isn't solved with excessive attention. In fact, the more you try to fill that emotional void recklessly, the larger it becomes. The key isn't to cut her off completely. It's to offer attention in a measured, intentional, strategic way. This makes every moment of connection more valuable. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Her emotional neediness might be a mirror of your own need for validation. If you react with fear, anger, or avoidance, maybe it's because you haven't healed something within yourself. Use that reflection to grow. Now let's explore the next emotional weakness, even more primal. It lies behind nearly every romantic decision a woman makes. Darwin spoke about this while studying sexual selection, the silent competition among women for men with the highest perceived value. When you're unique, comparison loses its meaning. When you're irreplaceable, hypergamy loses its power. But there's a secret Darwin didn't explore. Female hypergamy can actually work in your favor. The competitive instinct between women can be triggered, not so you can manipulate it, but so you can awaken her desire to win you over. How? Keep your options visible. Don't hide the fact that other women admire you. Don't shrink yourself to appear more accessible. When she sees that you are wanted, that you have value in the romantic marketplace, her natural instinct is to fight to maintain her position by your side. It's biology. It's evolutionary programming. But be careful. This doesn't mean playing dirty, lying, or being manipulative. It means don't get complacent, don't stop growing. Don't assume she'll stay forever just because she's with you. Today, keep evolving. Keep cultivating your essence. Keep being someone of value. Darwin once said, "It is not the strongest who survive, but those most adaptable to change." In the realm of attraction, power belongs to those who evolve continuously. But hypergamy is just the surface. Beneath it lies something even deeper, an unconscious need for emotional control. Michel Foucault studied this. Throughout history, women were often denied direct power, and in response, they developed subtle and refined forms of influence. Emotional manipulation became one of the most effective unconscious tools. You're just there, relaxed, watching TV. Nothing happened. No fight, no tension. And suddenly she says, "You don't love me anymore, do you? You don't even know where it came from." But now you're explaining yourself, justifying yourself, proving a love that hadn't even been questioned 5 seconds. Foucault studied this in Discipline and Punish. He called disciplinary power the most subtle and effective form of control, not the power that imposes by force, but the one that makes a person watch over themselves. This is the 9th female, weakness, controlling through guilt. It's an invisible yet powerful mechanism. She doesn't order you to do something. She plants doubts. She doesn't demand. She suggests with emotionally charged words. That's why, after a night together, she asks, "Were you thinking about someone else while you touched me?" Or comments, "You seem different today," even when you're exactly the same. Or says, "It's okay, you don't have to do anything," when it's obvious she's upset. It's not about the words. It's about the emotional effect the words provoke. It's about making you doubt yourself all the time. Foucault called this the emotional panopticon, a prison without walls, where you feel watched, judged, and tested. Even when you're alone, you start reviewing your messages before sending them. Avoid going out with friends to prevent conflict. Justify things that don't even need explaining. And most men react exactly as she expects, defending themselves, trying to explain, proving all the time that they are good enough. But the more you try to justify yourself, the more suspicious you seem. The more you prove, the more insecure she feels. Foucault proposed another way out. Don't enter the emotional control game. When she throws a loaded question, don't react defensively. When she tries to make you feel guilty, don't accept the guilt example. She asks, "Do you still love me?" The common answer would be, "Of course I love you. How can you even ask that?" The strategic answer would be, "That's a strange question. Why are you asking that?" You put the responsibility back on her. Make her reflect on the origin of the doubt. You refuse to take blame that isn't yours. Foucault said, "Power only exists when it is accepted. When you stop accepting projected guilt, the control game loses its power." This need to test, control, manipulate comes from a deep place of emotional insecurity. She wants to be sure she won't be abandoned. But here's the paradox. The more you submit to the tests, the less she trusts you. When you stay firm, calm, and emotionally autonomous, she may get frustrated at first, but she begins to develop genuine respect. The strategy is not to be cold, nor to be insensitive. It's to be immune. Don't be driven by emotional pressure. Base your actions on logic, clarity, and truth. Foucault concluded, "Where there is power, there is resistance. Your emotional resistance is what preserves harmony in the relationship." But all these weaknesses, from hormonal attachment to hypergamy and emotional manipulation, have a common root. And it was Schopenhauer who identified this base. The deepest weakness is the fear of being alone. She'd rather have a bad relationship than the silence of solitude. Have you noticed? She ends a relationship on a Monday, and by Friday she's already with another guy. She says she needs to find herself, but she's never alone during the process. She complains that all men are the same, but she can't go 3 months without one. This is the 10th and deepest female weakness, the inability to handle loneliness. Schopenhauer knew this up close. His mother, Johanna, lived in an endless sequence of relationships, and he realized it wasn't love, it was fear. Fear of emptiness, fear of facing herself. Women have been shaped over millennia to seek constant security. In the African savannah, being alone meant vulnerability. It meant death. This ancestral fear hasn't disappeared. It just put on a modern disguise. That's why so many prefer to date mediocre people rather than be available for someone worthy. Return to toxic relationships just to avoid being alone. Accept crumbs of attention and call it love. Forgive unforgivable betrayals out of fear of emptiness. Settle for less than they deserve just to avoid loneliness. This fear is the hidden key to emotional dynamics. It gives you power and also reveals the vulnerability she can use against you. Most men don't understand this. They think that being always present, available, and clingy will win love and loyalty, a fatal mistake. The more present you are, the more ordinary you become. The more assured you seem, the less effort she makes to keep you. When you eliminate the risk of absence, you eliminate her motivation to value you. Schopenhauer proposed something counterintuitive. Use independence as a tool of attraction. Be the man who doesn't need a relationship to be happy. Be complete on your own. Have a rich life with or without her. This changes everything. She realizes you are a choice, not a necessity. And the clearer that choice is, the more she tries to be worthy of it. And here is the final secret Schopenhauer revealed. The woman who can be alone is the one worth having. The one who can't is dangerous. The one who needs a relationship to feel whole will drain your energy, your identity, your autonomy. But the one who chooses to be with someone because it expands who she already is That one is a partner who enhances your journey. How to tell the difference? Watch how she acts when she's single. If she jumps from one relationship to another, run away. If she uses her time alone to grow, evolve, and build something, get closer. The irony? The more you master your own ability to be alone, the more attractive you become, and the more quality women you attract. Schopenhauer said, "A man can only be himself when he is alone. Master this art. Be emotionally free, and you'll see not only how women start to see you differently, but how they treat you differently."